time for us to have a very important morning conversation. City Muga is with me in studio and a Bayern Munich fan. And I want to give him a very big congrats because yesterday their team beat Pafos 5-1. Mulicheza vizuri sana, or is it 1-5? And to be honest, I really envy you because my team really failed me. And it's okay, we shall move on. We'll get better with time. That is none other than Dr. Lucas Nyabero.
The way you're sounding, you're not moving.
I'm not okay. I'm not, actually, to be honest,
no.
Ndani siko sawa.
You know, sauti inakuja kitoka na kirudi na kienda.
City hata hatu kujitetea na bawata moja.
But that's football, man.
Yeah. Dr. Lucas Nyabero, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
We are fine, thank you. Right here on Generation. Very excited to have you in studio to have this conversation on paracetamol, the misconceptions, and of course, conversations around autism. Now, Dr. Lucas is the CEO, Elara Health Innovation, and of course, the immediate past CEO of PSK and member of PSK. Daktari, what is PSK?
PSK is a Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. Actually, I wanted to start by saying thank you for having me here. These are very important conversations that we should be having. And actually, we should be able to make sure that we totally understand what we talk about when we talk about these things. Otherwise, miscommunication or misinformation can actually cause a lot more trouble than it's worth. Yes, the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya is a professional organization for pharmacists in this country.
Right.
And it's about 60 years old. And what we do is we come together and work on see how to make sure we do policy. We push for policy changes that are necessary. We also make sure that there's welfare for pharmacists, and we also make sure that the quality and the standards of pharmacists is up to par. Yes.
So PSK is the equivalent of KPMDU?
It is.
Yes. Nice.
Yes.
Now I know, and thank you for that very interesting intro. What I want
No, it's not. KMPDU, union.
Yes.
Do you say U or C? Because the KMPDC is a council, which is the same thing.
KMPDU, the union.
No. We are members of the KMPDU as pharmacists. Yes. And even the current president actually is a pharmacist right now.
Right.
But KMPDC is the one that regulates physicians. And then PSK,
right.
and then PPB, Pharmaceutical Pharmacy and Poisons Board. Regulates pharmacists. Now the pharmacists come together. I guess actually I take that back. We are similar to KMA.
Okay.
Yes.
That is precisely
yes.
it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell him that the equivalent is KMA.
Kenya Manufacturers.
No.
Kenya Medical Association.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I know there's. The one for manufacturers is KAM.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Got
Kenya
you.
Association of Manufacturers.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So thank you for that. For that clarity. Now let's start with the vaccines. Kenya is a beneficiary of vaccines, and especially the ones that have been produced out there, being brought here. But over the years, there have been a lot of controversy about certain vaccines. For example, there's a time people were complaining about, and I think it's the church actually that started this conversation, vaccines that were meant for HPV, especially for young girls. And ikaibua hisia nyingi. People were saying ati hapana, these particular drugs are not necessarily good for the health of the kids because apparently they were making children sterile, or they were supposed to make kids sterile. Why are we usually like this as far as vaccines are concerned? You remember also with the COVID vaccine, people were saying a lot of things about it, saying that even the COVID-19 pandemic was created so that these vaccines can be brought nini story nyingi. Yeah, let's start with the HPV one. Why was there controversy about it?
Interesting. We'll come to HPV. Let's move back a little bit.
Sure.
Why vaccines? How do they work? Because then when you start from that background, then you understand where we're going. So vaccines are probably one of the best discoveries in a few years. In centuries. One of the best public health discoveries. And the biggest problem, and that is actually exactly where the problem comes from, because then they functioned too good, they worked too well, that we don't get to see what they have prevented. For example, if you walk around to the school and ask somebody, or ask the kids now in Kenya, for example, have you ever seen a person who had polio? A lot of them will say no. and many of these other diseases that we've been able to avert because of immunization vaccines. So it's very hard to sell prevention. When you prevent something from happening, how do we know you did? Okay? And as a result, of course, there's always nefarious actors everywhere. Rumors will come, and it's very hard to not, because because if you look at all these things, when they talk about vaccine, so how does the vaccine work? And then we'll come to HPV. Vaccine is like PrEP. I remember when I was in school, I did the whole old system. I remember before CPE, we had a PrEP exam. That was purely just like the exam, but there were no consequences. It was just going to help you study. So it's got everything. You do your math, you do your whatever it was, science, and then you take whatever the results, and they help you do what? Prepare for the real exam. So vaccines are like that. So vaccines are prepared such that they will expose the body to the same feel. And that's why even when you're doing that prep, people really panic about it, because it is stressful. So the body gets used to it, so that when the real exam comes, you've already gone through it, so you understand, when I feel like this, the body adjusts to it. So when you get a vaccine, your body is exposed to the same type of kiini, whatever it is.
Yes.
The outside is the same, but the inside, it doesn't have the engine to cause a full disease.
The disease causing
is not
component,
there.
yes.
Correct. So now the body learns that when you see something that comes in that looks like this, that has these markers, because that's how the immune system works. It works by identifying markers on cells. So when you see these markers, this is what you rally.
Yeah.
So when you expose the body, it comes up with antibodies, like almost a new military to fight that particular thing. So when you get it, they are ready to go. Okay. If you didn't get the vaccine, when you get sick, your body has to rally itself, study the disease, and then look for immunity for it. That time could be catastrophic in between that. And that's why vaccines are there. As a result, we've averted a lot. There's been a lot of diseases that people didn't get because they had their vaccines on time. And now let's come back to this issue of HPV. HPV is actually one of the most useful vaccines. So any parent that are out there, please make sure your kids get it. Here's why. It prevents, one of the preventable cancers is cervical cancer, which is one of the 5 top leading cancers in Kenya. And that will prevent that. It allows the body to prepare for it. And so when they talk about it being, it causes infertility and many other things, I think it's because it's related to, and this is, I'm totally thinking, this is just a guess.
Yes.
It's related to the reproductive area. And then as a result, folks think, if it's there, it must be also has an effect on fertility. And not to trivialize, I am old enough to have drunk maziwa nyayo, and boy, were we supposed to be impotent, because that's what they said about maziwa nyayo. That's what they were saying. That was a rumor.
Yeah,
I have my kids, so it didn't work if it was supposed to work.
Right.
So I think the issue, there's a lot of rumors here. Yes.
And even with the COVID vaccine, people were saying something similar to, this one, especially the one being brought to Africa, to be specific, was supposed to control our population.
Yes.
And that's why we have a lot of people who are against vaccines, even in the States, because they're saying that, no, this one is supposed to control us somehow. And unfortunately, in this day and age, so much misinformation, malinformation, disinformation, people are actually inclined to believe some of these stories, because I know of people here in Kenya, that did not take the COVID vaccine, and they're like, I am not taking that vaccine. Yeah.
And you see, unfortunately, and this is where now, I think you guys were talking earlier on about politics a little bit. This is where leadership really matters, right? I think one of the biggest problems that happened with COVID was that there are some leaders who politicized it. And when they politicized it, they brought in skepticism towards public health. And one of the tools for public health is vaccine. So when that skepticism came in, now even the anti-vaxxers, who used to be a very small, they were not a big majority, now it's become a thing. And you find a secretary of health somewhere in the world saying that vaccines don't kind of work, and fighting vaccines, and which is unfortunate, because once you continue doing these things, people are going to get hurt.
Yeah.
People will get hurt.
But Daktari, there has to be a reason as to why someone of that stature would actually come out and say something of that nature. Whether it's a politician, a billionaire even, because we've had a couple of those actors, from Hollywood, and these are very huge influencers in their spheres of life. If someone comes out and says, and say maybe, and he has like over 200 million followers on social media, na aseme hapana hii kitu kidogo inakaa tricky, they might not influence 200 million people, but they will influence a couple of thousands of those folks.
Sure. But the thing is, that discussion is slightly skewed. It exists, but it's skewed because the fact that you are a movie star or you are an athlete of great repute, and you have followers, what you're issuing is an opinion on a subject that you're not an expert in.
Yeah.
There you go.
So people will take what you say because they like you, but you are in essence misleading people, because you are not providing empirical evidence to support and even to give credence to what it is you're saying. You're just saying it because you don't like it, you don't feel like it. That, my friend, is almost criminal if you ask me, because people will listen to you
and they will die.
Yes, they will. It is not any different from that witch doctor during the Maji rebellion, who told people that if he sprinkles them with whatever it was sprinkling on them, they'll be bulletproof. They died.
Actually, it's very interesting you say that, because there was a leader who actually asked people to inject disinfectant because of COVID. And the logic was so interesting. The fact that remember, we used to use disinfectant in your hands.
Yes.
So the fact that it works on our hands, then it definitely will work inside. Or if you expose it to some light, so you put some light, I don't know how you're going to put light in the body. So yes, it's an opinion where you don't have any empirical data, but it has some kind of kernel of truth.
It's not even a kernel. It's folklore and understanding. We had a president in a country who told people with regards to HIV that a cold shower was good enough for you to avert it.
Yes.
Utter nonsense.
Yes.
But he's the president.
Even in all of our neighboring countries, watu walienda wakakunywa conclusion flani na wakaambiwa watakuwa sawa. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of issues with vaccines, but I feel like sometimes, and CT is right in saying that some of these authorities that come and tell us this thing is not okay are not authorities in the medical field or in the biotech field or in the biochemistry field.
And I think the biggest issue is again, this is also almost like a professional faux pas for us. Us as professionals, we haven't come out to explain clearly. Like if you walk down the street and find 10 people, common man on the street, and ask them, how does a vaccine work? Or what is a vaccine? They will not be able to explain that.
Yeah.
So we know this, we use these big words and all those things, and then we don't explain it as well as we should. If the customer, if the patient, if the person on the street understood, I mean, an example was mRNA. I know there are people who are going to, you probably get a lot of comments on this one too. mRNA is a new technology to reduce the amount of time that you're actually able to prepare a vaccine.
Yeah. For someone who's hearing mRNA for the first time,
yes,
maybe just give us the name in full.
I'll give the so it's messenger RNA.
Yeah.
So what happens is when you, for example, in the past we used to use things like eggs.
Right.
So remember I just mentioned that when you get a vaccine, it is literally the cell of the disease that causes disease without the components that will actually cause the disease.
The disease-causing agent
Are not there. So then you have the outside, the receptors, the outside shows the same. So we used to use things like eggs, we used to do incubation, and of course in terms
to
of
multiply this
to
particular
multiply
vaccine.
it, to prepare it. So it used to take a long time and other things. So then this technology, actually funded by the US government, came out. And it's reduced the amount of time from when you decide you need a vaccine to when you actually have it. So that speed is what saved a lot of folks with COVID. And Africans were, and that's a different issue. So in Africa, we didn't get them on time. It means there's something about us that protected us. That's for a fact. We need to figure out all those things. There's a lot of stories about it, but I don't think there's any empirical data that says which is which.
Right.
But so it was just technology. Just the same way it used to take you from, if you in 1940 going from Nairobi to Nakuru would take you forever. Of course, maybe the time is the same because now there's traffic. We are moving faster now.
Right.
You can see this, what they call elections are done with choppers nowadays. It used to be you drive your little 4x4 all the way to wherever you're going and do whatever you need to do. Now you fly.
Right.
So technology has been accepted in some areas. Here's an area that also needs technology, because as we know, as the world opens, we are getting exposed to conditions and issues and other diseases from parts of the world that you would never have accessed in the past. A little island somewhere in the Pacific that has a unique thing there. That guy comes to Kenya, that unique thing, our nature, our natural system does not have a way to counter it. Same way as you have pythons in Florida that have just run rampant. So it's just the nature does not have a way to curtail it. So you'll need some kind of care, some kind of vaccine. So these are the things that now we need to now move faster.
Right.
And also the other thing about mRNA is that it also reduces, like if you use the eggs, those people who used to have egg allergies would be told not to take some vaccines
because of that allergy.
Correct. So now we take some of the safety issues out of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know whether that makes sense.
It does make sense. All right. That's about it about vaccines, and I'm sure this is a topic we can probably even just cordon and talk about it by itself. But it's a good thing what you've said, especially on the issue of the way technology has changed, and it's now helping us to reach places faster in terms of how we can even testing for specific markers, in different races of, humanity. Yeah, and that's where we are right now.
But remember, one of the things that we find as a developing nation that works against us, there are many things that work against us, but since we're talking about vaccines, we don't predispose our learning institutions towards research.
Yeah.
So that when we talk about homegrown solutions, it's part and parcel of the way we do things. We don't introduce research as an important component of learning. It is something that most people do when they want a postgraduate degree. Then they conduct research. And yet, people who come up with these vaccines and who do the things they do, research is core. It's fundamental to the things they do. When a decision is made, it will be supported with data. Now, that data is derived from a process of research, and they give it priority. And they also make sure that funding is directed towards it. So when you talk development, you can even see the bedrock on which that so-called development is built. Now, we don't have it. Then secondly, when it comes to ensuring that people understand what we're talking about, statements are made, the media is often called, and people read out and talk about findings. That thing is forgotten as soon as you leave that podium. The process of getting someone to understand whatever it is you're talking about to the same degree that you, who is prosecuting it, understands it, is what needs to be the focus. Then the resistance towards it is reduced significantly. And one then understands the benefit.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think also, Dr. on that same note, sometimes the commercialization of these things, the vaccines, also perhaps brings a lot of problems when it comes to them being accepted, to the general population. Why? Because had we, for example, when the Catholic Church was against certain vaccines, I think it's because they were not involved in the creation of said vaccines. And when they came out, they were thinking, why is this institution making this vaccine and giving it to children in Africa, for example? And yet, even in their own countries of origin, it's not been given. And then it brings that skepticism. Yeah, so perhaps indeed that can be an issue.
But that's a little misleading, because I know, like, for example, I've lived in other places, and I know that HPV has been given there. So there's some things that
Other
some
places
stories
outside Africa.
Yeah. Yes, actually in the US, and they do that, and it's actually almost all
Mandatory.
pediatricians will tell you to do it.
Actually,
because
there's a
they
doctor who
understand.
came here and told us it's free in those countries.
It's actually even here. It's supposed to be. So the idea is vaccines are supposed to be free, because
for
for a
both
vaccine,
boys and girls.
yes, because for boys it's been known to prevent penile cancer, among others, and there are few others. Research, and I didn't want to quote this, research already out that it also prevents other
Kinds of cancers?
Yes, the HPV. So it's actually a multi-preventer. But I think the thing, what Siti just said there is very, very important. I'll give you an example. We've been, I think, past President Uhuru, I think his last year, April, was supposed to have our own COVID vaccine in Kenya, made in Kenya. That's what the story was. That we are going to have one.
April of this year.
No. When he was leaving, I think. When did he leave?
2022.
22. I think April of 2022. We were supposed to have had our own vaccine.
Okay.
But of course we didn't, because of many other things. Our economies, our thought processes are so importation related. So that the research is supposed to be for export, because research you build and you sell. But if you look at our educational system, you look at the way we do things, there's a product that you manufacture in Kenya would probably be more expensive manufactured in Kenya than
As
when you
opposed to
import
it. Yeah.
Correct. So when you have that, what are you suggesting? You're suggesting this economy is just for importation, because we don't have the support systems, the structures to support exportation.
What makes it more expensive as opposed to importation?
All these small VATs and everything else. So by the time, I remember talking to a friend of mine who was a CEO of an organization here, said if he made insulin in Kenya, it was going to be between 10 and 20 times more expensive than a landed product from India, because of the various additional
There's a term that you use in economics that is called economies of scale. When, because of collaboration, this is what COVID proved, you're able to bring diverse resources from other places. So one institution doesn't have to bear the burden of research or everything else, R&D, that
the manufacturing.
You don't, because it's someone comes with their strength and you put the ideas together. Correct. So then you end up producing this same thing at a much faster rate, much faster rate, and at a far cost-effective rate, because the resources have been pooled. And because you're producing huge amounts of it, that's where the economies of scale comes in. It then becomes very, very cost-effective, even if you were to buy it. If we were to produce and do everything here, given our population, whether you like it or not, it will be expensive. Yeah. Yes.
I think over and above that, that's very true too. But I think over and above that is the mentalities that we have. When you look at things, even when you go to, just say, a pharmacy, people will ask, is this a local one or is this an imported one? And they will pay extra for the imported one, even when they don't have the money to do it.
Yes.
So there's that thing of skepticism about local products.
Yeah.
And it's just generally, if you look even at the system itself, it has not been optimized for local research and local manufacturing and local development of things. And that's what you are talking about from, like when you're talking about research and the mentality of research, the mentality of critical thinking about, here is a problem, how do I find a solution, not how do I buy a solution.
One of the things that these so-called developed countries have ingrained in the things they do is quality. The push and the knowledge and the desire to ensure that, for instance, when someone tells you that this particular product has this, it bloody better have what it says.
Yeah.
Because if somebody can prove it doesn't, you're going to shut down.
Yes, that's
okay. So people know this. When you're told this thing has a lifespan of 5 years, believe me, it'll go beyond 5 years. The problem that we have and the mistrust that we have it's not with our product, it's with ourselves. Because if a Kenyan tells you producing something, you say, I don't know, okay, can we see it first?
Yeah.
True.
So it's ourselves.
Seeing
And why?
is believing, yeah.
But we know ourselves.
Yeah.
And we know how we do things. It's not that we're not able to. Okay? If you have, even at something as simple as at the educational level, you're being told, and this is data from the ministry that employ the civil servants, that a large percentage of people who are employed, they have fake degrees. Now you start wondering.
Yeah.
We know the faith that we have in ourselves in this country is healthy enough. But when it comes to understanding specialized products like vaccines, infinitely more effort has to be made so that people can understand. The debate that raged between COVID and the Catholic Church, and they came into it, and the discussions, there were people who are medical practitioners who commented on it. But the truth of the matter is, they may be medical doctors, but they were not talking about a specialization that they were experts in. They were using the title doctor to speak on a subject in which they themselves knew full well they're actually not specialists in. Yes.
And I totally agree. And I think that's very, very true. I think, again, how do we communicate? How do we communicate the message? How do we explain why vaccines are important? How do we explain why this is a myth? And which is the other thing we're going to talk about. There's been this connection between autism and vaccines, which is interesting on its own, because it's very intriguing that the genesis of these vaccines cause autism was a badly written paper that was actually research paper that was actually withdrawn. It was retracted because it did not meet the evidential thresholds. So it was pulled out, but it was out. And some of these things that you're saying,
so by the time it was being published,
you never understand some of these things, but it was published, but it shouldn't have. But then they retracted it because then, of course, people will say this is bogus. So, but that skepticism had already come in. But if you go back and see, what does autism? It's just like I'll give you another example. ADHD. You find now almost every other child has been
diagnosed
ADHD. I remember I could never sit down. My mom will tell you she knew I was sick when I wasn't moving. If I sat somewhere, come home and I'm sitting, even when I was doing my homework, I'm moving.
Yes.
So I probably would have gotten a pill. I never got it. And I'm fine. So there's also an interesting dichotomy here of, are we over? And then if you go back to history, Beethoven's and some of those people who did amazing things in the past, mostly Europeans, there's now, most of them were on the spectrum, autism spectrum. So that's why hyper-focus to achieve a lot. Now, we don't have Africans.
Can I stop you and just
go ahead,
take you slightly back?
Yes, please.
Please explain so that our listeners understand that when you use the term autism, what it is that you mean. When you speak about the spectrum, what it is that you mean, and then explain what the spectrum means.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Spectrum, I'll look at a spectrum like a ruler. When you see a ruler, it's got different sections. So that's like the line, it starts from 10 to 30.
Right.
So that's like the spectrum of that's
0 to 30.
Oh, 0 to 30, yes. You're right. So then autism is a condition where it seems hyper-focus. People focus too much on one thing and sometimes to the detriment of everything else. So these are people who sometimes are socially inept. They don't even seem to be just in a tunnel. Sometimes they get too much input. Everything else is making too much noise for them, and they look distressed. And you'll find some of them want to be in dark rooms or in quiet rooms. And it's a condition it's almost amorphous, but not quite. You can say this person has autism.
Because of certain behaviors.
Certain behaviors, but not everybody who has those behaviors has autism.
Okay.
Neither do those behaviors mean autism.
Actually, there's a time where we're having a similar discussion on autism, and they were saying that perhaps everyone is on that spectrum.
Correct.
Remember we said from 0
to 30.
30. So
the ruler.
Yes. So you could be actually on that spectrum. It's just that yours is maybe 0.1.
Correct.
Yeah, and then there's someone who's on 29.6.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you'll find people, like some people are hyper focused on a small thing, and they once they're in there, they're in. As in utakuja, you knock and they're in their tunnel. And they say a lot of very high achievers seem to have something like that.
The geniuses
seem to be, because now they can focus to be able to see a solution that nobody else could see. So it's almost like a benefit, but we look at it as a negative in a way. And you go back to, as I say, the musicians, they will talk about all these things, Beethoven and all these people on the spectrum. Africans, we have not had a way to look and see in the past. Some of the leaders we had, amazing leaders, why are they on the spectrum? How would you know? We had our own cultural ways of taking care of such kids. How do you keep them busy? You know what? Do this, do that, do this. You keep them busy to make sure that is you're channeling that. But you see, the way we analyzed creativity and brightness and cleverness and all those things is a little different. But if you go back, it's almost like currently we have a lot of ways to say, somebody has. And this is where now when you talk about commercialization, some of this thing comes from that too. So you find, why are we giving pills to kids who shouldn't be getting pills for ADHD, for example? Why is it a thing? In where I used to be, there's a place I used to be where parents actually would take their kids and explain to the doctor that they have those symptoms, so that the pills when they are prescribed for the child, the parent takes, so that they can get the boost to do more.
Really?
Yes, they used to do that. And I mean, you would see them. I'd talk to a patient and I clearly know that the parent is the one who's going to take this medication and not the child.
Yeah.
Because it's the same. It's, for example, if it's Ritalin or Adderall, they would literally use their kids to get that, so that it gives them an edge.
Yeah.
This is where now when you come to situations where edges make a difference, just like when you dope for whatever it is, that little edge. So that autism conversation, vis-a-vis, has been the biggest, I think one of the biggest blows to vaccines. Because autism is looked as a negative thing. Okay, the spectrum depends on the spectrum. It can be very tough to deal with.
And by the way, just again for the benefit of the listener, there are very many other components of autism apart from just ADHD.
Correct.
Which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Correct.
So some people can also say that I have OCD.
Yes.
Yes. And so there are very many others in that spectrum.
Okay. Correct. And that's why I said it's a lot of it's not, you can't lock it in, and that's why you cannot just look at a child and say that one has autism. They have to be a specialist. Remember what CT said, specialist who understands and knows where to put, and even where to put you on the spectrum.
Yes.
And whether you need extra assistance to do things. Do you need medication? What do you need to guide you through this world with that particular with the autism that you have?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So the connection between vaccines and autism. So they say when the child, or is it when the parent receives this vaccine when they were pregnant, or where exactly is the connection here?
So and that's the thing too. So there's a connection saying that when you give vaccines after the child, they develop it. So that's one of the rumors. The other rumor is the parent, there's some things that they take which brings in the issue of Tylenol or so brings the issue of Tylenol in there.
Substance abuse.
Not substance abuse. Based on what they're talking about, like what they were talking about in what recently, there was a press conference where somebody said if you take Panadol, Tylenol is Panadol. The acetaminophen. You take acetaminophen, then it could expose your child to autism and all that. It's pretty utter nonsense. Unfortunately, I hate to say that. This is the first time I've used that word, but it is not sensible. It has been used. I mean, my wife used it, and we have kids who are perfectly fine, and many others. So if you look at some of this, it's an extrapolation. An extrapolation based on what seems to be a kernel of truth that is not there. So that, like I said, you were asking about autism and how it works and what the rumor is. The rumor is vaccines to the parents or vaccine to the child will instigate that. there's no research that has actually proven that. So when we talk about something, there's a drug.
Is the research being done though?
I should, yes, because this is a big deal. I remember there's a drug called thalidomide that they used to give to mothers for nausea. That one caused a lot of teratogenic births, so what means that child is born with a defect.
Why don't you become more graphic? You'd find a hand growing from your neck, or a foot growing at the place where your stomach is.
Yes. And there was
malformation of some preposterous, and this was supposed to be a drug that was supposed to help with morning sickness.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what it did. And when it became evident, which means it took time.
Yes.
Of course, they had to discontinue it, but the damage had been done.
Yes. But there was a clear line. You see, mothers who did this happened. Mothers who did this happened. How many mothers take pain? Actually, if you talk about pain and you're pregnant, most OBGYNs will suggest you take Tylenol or Panadol for pain, not ibuprofen or the others.
Yeah.
So most of the mothers who've given birth here have had it. How many mothers have given birth? What is the percentage of folks who have autism from that group? I mean, it is simple statistics, and it'll tell you that this is a stretched truth.
Yeah.
Things like those. I mean, but I think the other thing too is, again, I go back to us as healthcare providers. We need to be able to cut down. You see, like for example, when I talked about the ruler, people will remember when they look at the ruler, they remember autism spectrum. There's some things around us that can help us understand. If we can we can get up from wherever we are to come down to where we have, I think in the US they say 4th grade education, explain to everybody at that level so that everybody understands. If I tell you what your condition is today, you can internalize it and explain to a 3-year-old and they understand it.
Right.
So then we understand what is happening with our bodies, because our bodies are mysteries. And when you wear a white coat, people think, oh, you're a god or something. No. How do we explain that better to make sure that you understand? Because if you understand it, you'll be your best advocate and you'll be the best patient, because you will understand, oh, this is supposed to do this. It is doing something different. Let me report it. Then now we start. That's a research. That's how research starts.
But actually, let me ask you: has there been an incident or incidences where research in the medical field has been presented and then everyone is in agreement and they say this, we have agreed with our peers whether they are doing biomedical research or and we all agree, from the surgeons to the neurologists, and they say we have agreed that this is the way to go, or they have also disagreed and they say so we have maybe people in neurology saying something different, people in cardiology saying something different, and the information is out there and we do not have a definite way forward.
Yes, that has happened, and sometimes actually it happens because of siloization. You think in your small little bubble. I am a cardiologist, and I don't look at all this other side. Perfect example, there's a drug called Vioxx a while ago, and this drug was amazing in pain. And they did research, and it was almost one of those blockbusters, went out in the market, and then they got a little greedy, and they wanted to add another indication to that drug. When they did the research, that research showed a very serious cardiovascular problem caused by this drug. So that drug had to be pulled off the market, and there were lawsuits. I think there's some still going on probably, but it had to be pulled off the market because when they were doing the research, it was so focused on pain management. It was a COX-3 inhibitor. They were so focused on the pain that they didn't look across to say, hey, how is the heart there? Or how is this other things? And yes, they collected data, but they did not extrapolate correctly. Another one, this is a fun one, sildenafil. Sildenafil is commonly known as the blue pill, Viagra, originally designed for pulmonary hypertension.
Yes.
And everybody in that oil, everybody was going, they were marketing it for that until they started doing research and there was wait a minute, there's a side effect.
Yeah.
And nobody had thought about it. So then,
positive one.
Well, positive or negative.
It depends on how you look at it. Okay.
But then they realized we can monetize that side effect.
as opposed to the main agenda as
Correct.
to why it was being created.
Correct. Because this other one is a choice.
Yeah.
This other one is you're ill and you need it. So there's a different, a want and a choice. So you can pay more for a want. A need, we'll take care of it.
The market for the side effect was larger than for the
Indeed. To a point, actually, some people realize that. And they would write the prescription for the pulmonary hypertension, because the drug itself, the same drug, different name, was being sold at 1/10 of the price this other one was being sold. Right? So
okay.
they went and
so it's paracetamol being like paracetamol being sold under different brand names.
correct.
So one is expensive than the other.
Correct. One has been shown the indication is this, and one has been shown the indication is this. So this one is $100 per pill.
Yeah.
This one here is $1
Yes.
per pill.
Yes.
So you find people were actually prescribing this.
Yeah. As
that.
opposed to okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, there's many cases where a drug
The field disagrees.
Yes, and very few times have you got a drug that's actually up 80%. So normally we'll talk about 65%, and you can sell that drug for that particular indication. If 65% of the people who did the research are positively affected, positively have positive outcomes, then you can sell it for that condition. And that brings another twist to this.
Okay.
The amount of research done in Africa now is about 2.5% of all clinical research. Africa has 20% of the population. And these data centers have, of course, these things change, have less than 1% Africa-specific data for drug
Less than
development.
1%.
Correct. For drug development. So things like genetics, all those are things that they don't have.
But whose fault is that?
Tunakuja pole pole. Tunasonga pole pole. So the drugs that are being designed, we are not the primary customers. But how can we change that? One, the research that we talked about. Two, genetics. We need to start building our own systems that will give that data.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying the question you asked. How can we be able to say, hey, big pharma, here's data on Kenyans, on how Kenya do. How do we collect that? And that needs go back to CT. That's what you need, a research mind to build Africa. Because think about it. If we are 20%, and our average age in Africa is 19.5, life expectancy is going to around 70 now. So we have 50 years. 50 years to recover your investment.
Yeah.
And we are going to be getting more and more kids. I mean, we are now 20%. So we are supposed to be going up.
Yeah.
So this is a big market.
To go back to my question, to go back to my question about when you said that less than 1% of data is available, in regards to the African population, right?
Specific African data.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
For research.
And I was asking whose fault is it? CT, you were about to say something about that.
Well, what I was going to say is it isn't so much a question of fault. You can actually trace certain myths to a certain beginning or something that contributed significantly. This issue of the discussion that supposedly tried to connect autism to vaccines, what gave it the spark that lit it up was a 1998 publication in the Lancet by a gentleman called Andrew Wakefield. All right? Now, when you talk about measles, mumps, and rubella, MMR as they're called, these are diseases that were known to be found mostly in children. So vaccines the idea was for it to prevent these things. You got measles vaccines, I got them when we were young. The problem then arose when people took this as gospel.
Yes.
So now research had to be done. Now the researches that were conducted debunked literally everything that publication had indicated. Now there are those who argue, oh, big pharma fought back. Actually, no. If you look at that study had a sample size of 12 children. 12. Now, 12, and further study showed that those children also cherry-picked, meaning it wasn't random. Studies of this nature, for them to make sense, there has to be random selection. Meaning you decide not, we'll pick one, so you use an algorithm that just picks anybody, as we say in Kenya, anyhowly.
Randomized.
Okay? That's why it's called randomized. Most people will not go into the detail of asking, after this publication, what became of it? They stick with what they initially heard, and that for them is gospel. That's why you heard me talking at the very beginning about the need to develop that mind that actually asks, this thing that you speak of, talk to us about the research that was conducted, who it was by, where it was conducted, all the issues around it, the design of the study, everything about it. Because all these questions that you ask will give you a very close proximity as to how reliable that information actually is. Okay? Because by the time you are actually selling, say, a drug to a large enough population, you'll have gone through up to very many phases in your research to the point where you then make it even a multi-site study. So it's not just in one country. You try one in Africa, you try one in India, you try one where. So that when you talk about the drug and how people respond to it, you can safely say, this was our finding in Africa and in this part of Africa. This was our finding in India, in this part of India.
Yes.
The problem is some of these researches tend to be expensive.
Yeah.
But that is what you need to do. Then you're bulletproofed. When somebody asked, you can easily give a response and say, this is what we have done and how we've done it. The myths around what we are saying, none of everything I've said was that none of it was done.
But and the reason I was asking whose fault is it as far as the availability or lack thereof of that particular research is when you have research facilities hapa zenye zinafanya research.
We do have.
We have KEMRI, we have CDC, we have so many others. We keep on funding them directly or indirectly.
No, bro. Just pause a little bit.
Yeah.
Pause a little bit. KEMRI has 14 centers.
Yeah.
And each center looks at a specific area of research study.
We have 14 centers.
14.
At 14 different
I worked for the Center of Microbiology Research.
Right.
I still consult for them even now as I speak to you. That was that one. The Center for Clinical Research. The Center, believe me, there are very many, and they do conduct research.
Yeah. So
I was not talking about an institution like KEMRI, whose sole mandate is just research. I was talking about the education system. Introducing research as a key and core component in the learning process. So it is not something that you come across when you're now looking for a degree. No, it's something you've understood throughout your learning experience. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and I agree. And also Dr. touched on it at the beginning of the conversation. But I was just asking, because of that 1% now, so that we can also contribute to that, to take it higher. Are we doing enough research on the continent?
We're doing research. I mean, one of the things, again, that critical thinking, research mind, then we don't have to do things like what you're saying, where once you get your publication, you shelve whatever you had.
Yeah.
So we don't monetize as opposed to the way the other systems work.
Are you suggesting that we actually have the research, but it's just somewhere in a shelf gathering dust?
We could. I think KEMRI. I stand to be.
You're not wrong.
You're not wrong, and I stand to be corrected. But I think
no, you're not wrong. But
so if we make it available to be more than 1%,
actually, well, we could. But listen,
it's complicated.
The bulk of the research that we conduct in this country is funded from outside the country.
Exactly.
And so you have to take care of the interest of the person who is funding it.
Correct.
All right?
Correct.
So the intellectual property could be shared, but that is something you agree before you even start conducting the research, the process.
Yes.
What we do have and what we've developed over time are the ethical institutions that can license research. We've developed them. We have very many of them. Very many of our universities actually have them. There was a time when it was only Kenyatta and KEMRI, all right? But we've expanded it. It means more and more research can be conducted.
Correct.
So then what I'm gathering, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that someone is keeping this keeping that information somewhere.
No. We have not. So one of the things you
because
mentioned,
if it's patented to a particular funding or whatever organization.
No. Patents are a completely different thing.
Yeah, but
for there to be a patent, there has to be a product.
Yes.
Right? What you're talking about is intellectual property.
Yes.
Right.
Now, intellectual property is when you have the findings and what it is that you want to operationalize it. If, for instance, you are testing a drug, let's say like Truvada, okay? That is an antiretroviral, right?
Yes.
the findings, whether you can use it for PrEP or for PEP or whatever, whatever findings you have will have to be published. You'll have to wait for a peer review of that particular subject. Now, if indeed the results are favorable, then that drug, which is an antiretroviral, can now be sold for other purposes like PEP or PrEP or what have you.
Yes.
But that research will have done that.
Initial
now,
research.
Part of how it is you negotiate as a local partner is the benefits that you will get from it in terms of when it is being sold, because a pharmaceutical company involved in it. Okay, how will our people benefit from it? How will we include it in our protocols for healthcare? What will we need to do in terms of training our people to understand how best to administer it? What I'm trying to tell you is there's an entire process that one goes through.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
And the thing about it, the AU is doing a lot right now. We're doing a lot even as Africans to move towards that. But remember the infrastructure that has been put together on this. As I said when I started, the primary customer of a lot of these drugs that are being made is not the African patient. And that is why if you look at most of the studies, you just go and look at who was included, who was there. The safest patient in the world is Caucasian male between the age of 18 and 30. Those are the males, white males in the West who are in college and can go for little bucks. They will do the research. Okay. So then you can actually there'll be
study subjects.
There'll be study subjects, and all their data will align. If you deviate from that, now we're extrapolating. Now there are scientific methods to extrapolate. That's the same thing with Africans. So we need to start building the system, and I think we have we now have moved towards research funding in Kenya. Those are some of those things that are going to help with developing data. Remember, Africa, like I said, we are the most genetically diverse continent in the world. So you can't just extrapolate that they look African. No. They are even in Kenya itself. I mean, last week you read something about Turkanas and how they deal with water and how their organs actually need less water than organs of other people. That is genetic. That is epigenetics. Now you're starting. The body has started mutating towards the conditions and the environmental conditions. So we have different environmental conditions in Africa, for example, and every place has their own benefits and where the body has to adjust.
Okay.
So we can do more, and we probably need to have that inquisitive mind to do more.
Dr. We have literally 1 minute to go. Do we know what causes autism?
The easy answer there is no. We put things together and assume it is, because if we did, if we had a source,
we'd be guessing about the vaccines and Tylenol and all these other things.
Correct. We just go to the IT and say, I mean, we know, this is what it is, and we solve that. So we don't know, and that's why there's more research on it. And I actually wonder sometimes, are we putting too much into this? Now, I am not sipuuzi wale ambao wazazi ama people who are going through autism. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying, there are cases that are actually, and I have a few friends who have kids who have autism, and I understand that. But I'm just saying, how are we going to be able to get the politics out so that we do the science? The science right now is so marked by so much politics and proving points here and there. And you can't prove a point and still get good research from it.
Yeah. Yes. Perhaps that's why you need doctors in politics that can control the politics from that direction.
Oh, yes.
Perhaps, yeah?
Indeed.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through.
This was fun.
Yes, it has actually been a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed every little bit of it. I've learned a lot more than I thought I knew, especially about autism, considering I've had these conversations over and over with different professionals. So thank you so much for availing yourself.
Most welcome, and I really appreciate this.
All right.